So glad you guys decided to join us this week for our podcast. My name is Diane Karshner here at Experience Christian Church, and I'm here with my podcast pal, Matt Silver, our senior pastor. Say hi, Matt.
Hi, thanks for having me again. This is 3 weeks in a
Oh.
row.
So today we're going to talk about something near and dear to Matt and my heart, and that's about groups. So let me start out by just telling you what groups are. Um, Groups at a church generally are people that get together, 8 to 10 people, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less. And we get together generally and talk about spiritual things, the Bible, our life as a Christian, how to be more like Jesus. There's also some social groups that do things like axe throwing. Ew. Or there could be service groups that actually go and help people. There's a couple of those kind of opportunities here at Experience where we go and help people with their homes to repair them, that we go and help people that are in dire straits and just need a hand. So whatever the group is, there's always a component of God mixed in and through it because we're serving as Jesus would serve others. So that's what groups are. But today we're going to hone in on that first kind of group, that group that studies the Bible together, that does life together, that just tries to figure out how to do this thing. So fortunately for us, we have 4 people who are willing to join us on our podcast today, who are members of our groups. Thank you. Who are members of one of the groups at Experience Church. They may or may not have had experience with groups before, and we're going to find that out as they introduce themselves. So first off, we have Sarah Erner, who is our eKids coordinator here at Experience Church. She goes to college at Eastern College, which is near here, Eastern University now, which is near here. So Sarah, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your experience with groups before you got here.
Yeah, so my name is Sarah. I lead the Young Professionals group, which is college age to young adults. But prior to leading that group here at Experience, I was in and out of small groups from about 5th grade. So when I was in 5th grade, we would pack a lunch after church, and I would sit with my high school small group leaders, and we would just sit and eat. And they might have us read a little bit of the Bible for that week, and we would all talk about it. But it was mostly just 5th grade girls being silly. And then as I got older, those groups evolved. And I was really heavily involved in small groups throughout high school and then early college. And, through life, sometimes groups come in phases. But yeah, I'm really excited to be in a group in this season of life. And groups have been good to me.
Good. Thank you so much. So next we'll have Scott Shellhammer. Scott's been with Experience pretty much since the beginning, but he's in a men's group that is led by Matt Silver. So Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your experience with groups before you got here.
So again, my name is Scott Shellhammer. Until Sarah said something, I really had to think back. I guess I've been involved in groups my whole life because I was in choir when I was a little kid in church. That's kind of a group, but I was involved in the youth group at church, at my church. And then as I grew up and left, I was involved in, several different churches as we moved around the area. And I've always found myself in one group or another. I was in an acting group. I was in a men's group. I was in a service group. So, wow, I guess I'm in more groups than I thought I was.
It sounds like it. So you must like the whole atmosphere of group setting, right?
Absolutely. It no matter what size church you are, it makes church a lot smaller.
Oh, that's interesting. It's an interesting perspective. Mimi Joy has been the church since we started, kind of, or maybe since we started online only. So tell us a little bit about your journey here, Mimi.
It's been pretty much the scenic route. I realized in my 30s that my parents had accidentally raised me Buddhist, and that was enough for me for a very long time. And then through some various life events, I started looking for more. I listened to TBN for a few years, then started going to a large church in town because I wanted to really have a more direct and personal experience. And I tried one group there. It was a nice experience. I met some really nice people, and it just kind of dissipated. People's lives got very busy and the group sort of melted away. But it had been kind of an initial positive experience. Then we were looking for another church. The pandemic hit, And I was thinking, how am I going to do this? And I had heard about Experience through a friend and dialed in like the sermons. And then I saw the groups and I thought, well, it's a chance to hear what the leadership has to think. I was just going to hang in the back and not say anything for a couple months. It was Matt's group that lasted about 3 minutes. And then he was talking to me. And then I've joined 2 groups since, Matt's group and then another group for ladies on Thursday. And they've been great.
Yeah. You definitely jumped in with both feet, Mimi.
Only because I had a recommendation from a good friend and she raved about both Matt and Carrie. Normally I would never have had the nerve to hit that button to join on the Zoom thing.
Absolutely awesome to have you. And then next and final, besides Matt and I, is Nathan Hartman. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your group experience.
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Nathan Hartman. Groups, depending how you loosely define them, I definitely was in youth groups all growing up. As far as small groups with the church, I also, for a little while, led a parents without children, or no, not parents, married couples without children, and then quickly disqualified myself from that, and then joined a married couples with children group, and have been in and out in a few different men's groups, but they're mostly smaller groups meant for like the life of a study, you know. But yeah, they've been great. I mean, definitely enjoy being a part of groups. Helps you get to know people better, and it's also an interesting thing about how much you can realize, like the growth you can create in relationships when you do have smaller groups. It's just a lot easier. Even people that you wouldn't naturally be drawn to due to shared interests, once you get to know people beyond just that surface stuff, it's cool to see how you can connect with people. So yeah, great experience with groups.
That's awesome. So before we move on from this question, Matt, why don't you share, because I've known you for a while, I know that you have a passion for groups. So tell us a little bit about how that passion came to be and why you still think it's the one of the best things you can do in a church community.
Sure. I am new to Zoom, so it took me a while to unmute myself. Sorry about that. I'm an amateur. For me, groups are the opportunity where you actually can really personalize and interpret your faith. And so although it is fantastic to be part of a weekend message, to worship, to do communion together, to do all these one another's, is just very void in a large room. And so pandemic has really caused us to rethink what groups are like and who's actually there for me and who can I call when I'm having a problem or an issue. And it just makes faith so much more personal. We like to say circles are way better than rows. Rows, you're just listening, you're getting this information. And then if you're lucky, you remember 10% of it when you walk out. But in the group discussion, you're finding out how to incorporate that into your everyday life. Like, it's great to know something, but how do we really, really, really make it count for the other days of the week? So that's my passion points, that, and I just love being around people. I could be around people all day, every day. I'm one of those weird, crazy people. And I just really enjoy it. I think that's the backbone. That's the meat of the Christian faith, is doing all those 100 one another's together.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. And I know that you being so relational, and all of us know that you are relational. I don't think I've met very many people who love to be with people all the time like you do. I, on the other hand, am not one of them. So I always thought that groups wouldn't be the thing that I should do. But years and years ago, a friend invited me to a group, and it was just 3 or 4 of us. And we studied the book of Philippians, which I didn't know anything about. But it was just the 4 of us just sitting there. Nobody was an expert in it. There wasn't a Bible teacher sitting there. It was just the 4 of us reading it and going, what does that mean? That's beautiful. Or what does that mean? I have no idea. But just that, the camaraderie, the passion that we shared about different things together, just the 4 of us, that made me really think that groups were the way to go. But then, over the years, I've been in many different churches over the years. And some of them were, you're invited to something by someone who you just, wow, she is so judgmental. And you just picture a group with her where she's like slamming you with her purse, whack. So I stayed away from groups on and off. But then about 15 years ago, I started joining groups and just committing myself to them. So I'm with you, Matt. I just can't even picture figuring out this life, especially right now, without having, you know, a few people on Zoom with me going, what is going on right now? And where does God fit in? And being able to pray together. It's just awesome. So let's go back to you two fellows. You both are in a men's group. So tell us, you know, men are a little bit different than women, obviously. So tell us a little bit about your experience with these men's groups, because so often we get into groups as couples, or women just get into women's groups, but men's groups are a little bit of an anomaly in our country or in our society today, other than axe throwing, which in itself can be a group. But other than axe throwing, I mean, what are you guys getting out of this? I mean, what would you encourage your male friends to get into it for? I mean, is there something in particular that you are it's really resonating with you? Scott, you go first.
Well, I was in the axe throwing group. That's how I got the nickname Lefty. No, I'm just kidding. We have fun, and actually, the axe throwing group opened up everything else for me. So that was a way to get in, to do something that was fun, that I wouldn't normally do, something that I had never done before, with a bunch of guys that I would think, hey, these guys are fun, and it's with church. How cool is that? So that kind of opened up the idea of this is what they do here at Experience, and we try to be very relational, as Matt mentioned. So I took the next step, and I joined the men's group, and was discussing books. You know, we read a book or a couple of chapters on something and talk about it. And I found in the beginning it was very much like I anticipated, but as we started getting deeper into the weeks, people opened up, and it was very, very refreshing to see, very refreshing to be a part of. And it kind of allowed me to realize that, gee, I'm not the only one going through some of this stuff. And well, here's a guy that I respect and look up to, so to speak. And wow, he's got some things that's going on in his life that I've got going on in my life too. And I guess the commonality kind of makes things flow a little bit easier. So I've actually mentioned to Matt a couple of times, wow, you know, that guy was really, I really appreciate what he said. I wouldn't have gotten that from just going to church, you know, just sitting in a, you know, again, as Matt said, sitting in a row, I would have never known that, but sitting in a circle, wow, I do. And it affects me, not just in group time or in church time, but that kind of, you know, makes me think about stuff the rest of the week. And that's really what I wanted to get out of a group. I don't want to show up for church and then not see anybody for the next week. I want it to be part of who I am. So.
Great. Wow. Nate, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I know for myself, I've had many experiences being at church on Sundays, and the idea comes up about church not being something that's a one day a week thing. It's not just for Sundays. We should be spending time during the week, kind of learning more and bettering yourself, and being there and thinking, I love the sound of that, but I have no idea like what that even looks like. Like, how do I implement more than just being here and giving it my all on Sunday mornings, but what's more? And I think groups are such a natural, easy next step. And it's nice because even if you don't know anyone in that group, there's no expectation that you're there and sharing your life story day one and going all deep into it. I've also been in groups where you'll hear people being super honest about what they're dealing with, what they're going through, and thinking like, I don't see myself being willing to open up and being that honest yet, until you spend a couple of weeks, months, years with those men. And then you realize, okay, this obviously I can, you know? And I think so that it's such a great first step when you're sitting there on Sunday mornings, whether it's on your couch watching online or in person, and you think, I know I should be doing more, but I don't know what that looks like. It looks like a group, you know. If you were like me and that's what you've thought, like, that's just do it. Join a group that makes sense for you, that you have a basic interest in, even if it's just a men's group and I'm a man, cool, okay. But it's such a natural way to get that additional stuff during the week that you weren't getting before. So, yeah.
That's great. Matt, you have some more insight on, yeah, I mean, you've led men's groups for a long time. You've been a member of a men's group for a long time. Tell us a little bit about your view on men only groups.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of men know how to become friends with other guys easily. I think a lot of times their circles confined of, I should be doing this as an employee, I should be doing this as a family man. And a lot of guys think checkpoints. Okay, I graduate, then I get a job, then I get a spouse, then I get a kid, and they just think this assembly line. And before they know it, they're just kind of doing checkbox life. And they realize, like, wow, if something bad happened and if I don't have a community around me, what am I going to do? And unfortunately, some guys don't realize that until it's too late. Guys by nature like to get things done. And I believe if you can sell a man on the idea of you're actually putting in time during the week to build a community, like we like to build, we like to see something grow. If they get the vision of what ultimately you're trying to do, is you're trying to get a team together that you can do meaningful life with, every guy, I think, gets excited about that. The deep, dark struggle that every man has is, am I enough? I think that's constantly like, do I have what it takes to do this next hurdle, this next thing in life? And a lot of men I know are very self-critical and thinking through, like, I don't know that I'm enough, or I don't know that I haven't. If I share this with anybody, then what will happen? And when guys do that, and Scott was saying, it's just, they feel like, hey, they're coming around this. As Nate was saying, it's like, oh, this becomes really practical. Like other guys shake their heads. You're just like, I didn't know I could have anything like this. So if guys get that buzz, they'll miss it if they don't have it. Yeah. But it's just, there's weeks you're just showing up. And if you lose the idea of why you're doing it, with the focus, it could just feel like, well, I didn't get this done because I gave up an hour on Monday night. Yeah. Where eventually you'll realize, like, oh, this was worth it. The payoff was worth that risk.
Yeah. It just takes a little bit of time to invest in it. One of the reasons that I had a hard time joining groups for a while is that I didn't know enough. I thought I had to go equipped in some way. So Mimi, I have a question for you. One of the things that I have learned to love about you being in a group was that you are not scared to ask questions. And the questions you ask are from this place of just curiosity. You just want to know how did, in the groups that you're in today, in Matt's group and in Carrie's group on Thursday, how did you get comfortable doing that? Is it some trick they have that got you to turn on this curiosity? Where is that coming from? And how did you feel comfortable in a group asking those questions?
It was a process. I really had a big reservation about even walking into a Christian church. I mean, let's back up there. This was all not a given for me. My mom considered converting very seriously when I was a small child, and it was a much less enlightened time. And she hit at some point kind of a cultural and ethnic wall and chose not to convert. And so I've had some mixed experiences over my life. So the first question was I even going to cross the threshold of a Christian church? What kind of experience would I have coming from a, quote, old-fashioned words, heathen religion, and also being a woman of color? So I had to get through some things in my own mind, and I just kind of jumped in. And that's why I was just going to sit quietly in Matt's group for a while, test the waters, and not say a word for a couple of months, just to see if this was a place where I could explore my questions without feeling culturally hindered or uncomfortable. And I mean, Matt dispelled that in 30 seconds. You just can't be around Matt for long and not just like realize that when he says no holds barred, he means it. So I took him up on it. And I've had a lot of questions over the years. I've been studying religions, including Christianity. And I'm a curious person. It's just my nature. So when he really meant it, and I realized it, and I realized the group was, not going to throw me out and say, burn her, I went for it. And they've been great. It's just been the most wonderful way to explore all the questions I ask, which are sometimes extremely fundamental. And I was hoping not to shock anybody. I see some eyebrows go up, but everybody really gets in and tries to answer from a very sincere and caring place. Yeah. And I'm seeing the individuality of everybody's journeys, and I feel it's okay that my journey is a little weird compared to people who grew up in a church or came from someplace else, and that's fine.
Well, I think that's what we learn in groups, that we all come from a little weird place.
Yeah.
So we all have our own stories, and there's no one path. You can belong before you believe, and you can question whatever you want. So I'm so glad to hear that you have been encouraged by that kind of atmosphere.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
I love how Mimi explains things all the time. And I think what you had identified there, it's sometimes you enter into a group because you're trying to assimilate as fast as you can to the group dynamic. Like, you don't want to ruffle any feathers. All you're doing is just trying to go in and find a community. But then there's this other aspect of groups that is an authentic pursuit, where you're actually being vulnerable, sharing your real sincere thoughts, your questions. And I have just always appreciated your desire is not just to assimilate into this group dynamic, but the goal is for everyone to bring their unique perspective and really grind that down, as opposed to just fit this mold. And I love that. So what's your thought on that?
Me?
Yeah.
I mean, you really mean it, Matt. I think a lot of people say that and they hope to mean it. But I think you really do. And so does Carrie. And I think the people that are in this church are really a group that can truly walk that. I mean, you say taste and see that the Lord is good, but everybody's taste is different. And you have really created an environment, I think, through your own leadership and inspiration that is really special. I would not be this candid on a normal basis in a group, much less even do this kind of YouTube. I mean, I'm a quiet person. I'm an introvert. I would have sat there for 3 sessions and then drifted off if I didn't feel that this was a place where I really could get my questions answered, because I needed help. Still do. Still can't get through the New Testament. Still hung up on a lot of things. So
we're walking with you. We're walking with you, Mimi.
Oh, I know. You sure are. And laughing with me too.
Is today your birthday?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay. I knew it was this week. Okay, Sarah, we saved the youngest till last. We're all the best, but you are our youngest. So you've been in groups your whole life, but just recently you decided to start leading the Young Professionals group. So tell us a little bit about that transition. Why did you do that? What leaders in your past have inspired you to take on the leadership role? Tell us a little bit about leading in a group.
Oh, goodness. So I've had many groups. I think every year of high school, I've switched a group at one point or another, just because of the way our youth group functioned at the time. And so I've pulled something from every leader, whether that be the kind of conversations that come out of group that have inspired me, or just the general nature of the group. And I know, like, my small group in high school, like Matt and a few of the guys were saying earlier, like, going to a group brings so much more wisdom out of a Sunday, rather than a Sunday experience, I should say. And so a lot of my memories from high school and church coincide with my youth group and things that I've learned, but it's also coincided with fun things that we've done. So we would do dip nights, and everyone would bring their own kind of dip, or we'd bring our own blanket, or we'd bring our own pajamas, or whatever. Bring your own night that was appropriate for 10th graders is what we did. And so it was always such a fun time, getting to enjoy our time together and also just learning and diving deep. And so I think that aspect of it, of just having fun and getting to learn at the same time and building those personal relationships, was so helpful in framing the way that I look at groups. And groups are never perfect, you know, like girls like to cluster up and there'll be 3 over here and 4 over here, and there's sophomores on the bottom and seniors on the top. And so it's just, there's always been interesting dynamics within groups. But yeah, overall, I was just excited to lead this group. And I was most nervous about just making everyone feel included, because I know how much I valued that throughout high school. And so, and now into college as well. And so just wanting everyone to feel included and be inspired by the content and be willing to learn and hear each other out and just grow together has been good.
Great. It's good to hear. Matt, do you have any comments on leading a group? I've always seen the leader, there's this in value being in a group, just being together, but there's also this extended value of leadership and how you're thought about and prayed about during the week and connected with. Can you comment a little bit about leadership in a group and what people in a group can count on from their leaders?
Yeah, great question. I think one aspect is from the series that we've been doing that I really appreciated is no two people are the same and God will uniquely make them. And so are some foundational things as a leader of a group you'd expect. And you'd expect someone to care about you, to pray for you, to appreciate who you are and put a vested interest in you. And so as a group leader, and then obviously the personal private practices of praying regularly, reading the Bible, doing those things, not as check marks, but as an authentic journey with Jesus that you care about him. And your desire is not to get people to fall in love with you as a leader, it's to get them to fall more in love with Jesus. And one of the things that you recognize as a leader, not everyone's going to connect with you as a leader. And that's okay. This isn't, I appreciate what you said, Sarah. Sometimes people can pair off and do certain things and all that. And that's a great thing. I want someone to feel like, oh, I appreciate who Matt is, but he drives me nuts in group because he has us do dumb activities like draw stuff and share these awkward deals. And that's okay because they can find someone else who walks more like them, who they can appreciate. Some people need that kind of different personality. So there's not a mold that makes a great leader. If you're an introvert, you can get someone else that can help facilitate that stuff. If you don't have an administrative bone in your body, you don't have to do the record keeping. Someone else in the group can do that. So it's just, there's no disqualifiers. If you love Jesus and you love people, you can qualify as a group leader.
To tag on to what Matt was just saying, earlier this week, Matt and I were just celebrating that two of my girls from my group had a call after our group to talk about something that they both had a shared interest and struggle with. And so I think even that as a leader is a huge win, and feeling so excited that they don't really need me, they have each other, and that's a really great thing.
Yeah, it's a good feeling when they connect outside a group. It's just awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Okay, we're going to wrap up now. And so what I'd like to ask each of you, and Matt, you're gonna finish us off, is just in one or two sentences. I'm somebody who's trying to figure out, should I join a group? I don't know. So what's your answer to me? We can start with Nate.
Yeah, I think my answer would be that I am also that person. I'm that person who does not naturally, I wasn't seeking out groups, but then when I see one I think it's a good fit, just do it. Just you're also not signing your sign up in stone. You know, if you do it for a couple of weeks and you realize it's not for you, I don't know a single group leader that would urge you to give it a shot, but wouldn't trust you that you know ultimately what is right for you and would want you to follow. So give it a shot. If you've never been in one before, just try it and take it from someone who also would be super hesitant to join the group the first time and then am thrilled once I do it. So
okay, maybe. Sarah, what about you? I don't want to join a group. Convince me.
I would say not to let past experiences with groups taint your future experiences with groups. I know that like past experiences for me, there's been places where I've been hurt in a group, or other people I know who have been hurt by groups or within a group. And so moving out of those experiences into something new, I think keeping in mind that it's different. No group will be the same, just as no person is the same. And so it can hurt sometimes to take a chance, but I think it's a chance worth taking.
Great. I'm thinking, Scott, convince me that I should join a group.
Well, I'm going to circle back to what I said earlier. Joining a group makes church smaller. I was one of those that got the flyer to join Experience. And when I walked in, there were a lot of people that actually everybody I didn't know. And you join a group, you go to church, or you meet, and now I know people, and it makes it it makes it more comfortable, and it makes it more personable. So groups make church smaller. I appreciate it.
I like that idea. Mimi, push me over the edge.
In large part, I think a group can be what you need it to be if you voice what your need is. I think particularly with this group, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So if you have some sense of what you're looking for and bring that, it becomes part of the wonderful sauce that becomes this group. For me, I wanted to see what difference did it make to be a Christian as you walk through your daily life. So I've seen now 20, 30, 40, 50 people sharing their journeys and how each of them is unique and different. And some are people like me who really don't have much church history. I'm kind of way out on that end. And a lot of people like you who have been in it doing this for years. And I've had the chance to learn from all of you. So I think you can find what you need if you ask for it.
Okay, I'm in. Matt, where do I sign up?
Pull out your stick pen, get some blood flowing, and write on this sheet of paper right here. So are you going or is it me? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I'm going. Okay. So for me, my sale to you is know what you're going after, and you are looking at a more integrated life with Jesus. And to do that, you need other people to journey that with you. I truly echo what we said over the weekend. Our propensity for self-deception and all those things can't be rooted out alone. We need people that we trust to walk with us. And those relationships take time to go there. I need help to be a better husband, a better father, a better pastor, a better friend, a better. And I can't get there on my own. God will help out, but there's a need for other people to walk that journey with me. And that's just a commitment that we will grow when we're in authentic community that, as we said over the weekend, is truth and grace focused. I said trace, which might actually be a really cooler way of saying grace and truth. It just might be trace, because
sure,
that's important to recognize.
Yeah, I'll look that up in the dictionary. Okay.
Sure.
But anyway, thank you. I think I will definitely join a group. Thank you. But on the last comment, to close us out, I don't think that my faith where it is right now would be where it is right now if I hadn't been in groups over the last many years, on and off. And some were good and some were bad, but all of them showed me where Jesus is in this world. All of them represented an authentic look at what it's really like to walk with Jesus. And I'm just really thankful for all of those people that were in those groups with me. So thank you all for joining us. We're so glad that you took the time to be able to do this. I know this is the middle of work days for some of you. So thank you so much. Thanks, Matt. And we will see you next week on the Experience Christian Church podcast. Thanks.